Hey girlies, just a quick reminder before we dive into today's episode. The information shared on this podcast is intended to be general sports nutrition advice and education related to period recovery for female athletes. This is not specific to any one individual, and it may or may not apply to your situation. If you are looking for personalized guidance, be sure to apply to our RBSN Period Recovery Nutrition Coaching Program. Our 4-month period recovery program is designed to help you sustainably get your period back and keep it. You can apply now to get started in our program, and we'll leave the link for the program below. If you're not quite ready for that one-on-one approach, that's exactly why we created the Period Recovery Guide. It's designed to support the girlies working on period recovery, specifically if you've lost it due to hypothalamic amenorrhea. The full Period Recovery Guide is finally out now, and we will leave all of the information for it in the podcast show notes. This is the Eat More Carbs Podcast. Hello and welcome back. This is the Eat More Carbs Podcast. It's Jenna here with Reilly. We're both dietitians and we talk every Thursday about sports nutrition for the girlies. I am so excited for today's episode because this is a question that we get not only from athletes in our period recovery program, but from all of you. The question that we are answering today, much anticipated, is do you need to gain weight in order to get your period back? Before we get into today's highly anticipated, highly requested episode of the Eat More Carbs Podcast, we are going to do our high and low. So sharing about our week, the good, and maybe the parts we wish gone just a little bit differently. And at the end of the episode, we will provide our training update. Reilly and I are both running a lot right now, so sharing a little bit about the running that we are doing. So Reilly, kick us off, high and low. What's going on this week?
This week, I thought I would do a little high-low situation from my 5K this past weekend. I've been sharing a lot about how I have been training and doing a couple races in preparation for the New York Marathon, which is coming up really soon. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 months away, but I feel like it's going to be here before I know it. I kind of wanted to share a little kind of recap, and we can definitely do a full recap if that's something that y'all want to hear about. I guess the high was, this is my first 5K in like a really long time, like since high school. So it was really fun to go out there and do it. I also shared a little bit too, like on my Instagram, that I actually got the first like overall female spot. I wasn't expecting that. That was fun to like get out there and race, and I got a free pair of shoes and like a pint glass and a gift card. So like, I don't know, hey, yay, let's do it. That was the high. It's really interesting though, because my low from the race is kind of linked to my result. Even though I was able to get first overall, I didn't perform as well as I wanted to. I think this just goes back to, we all have our own ceiling and we all have our own goals. And sometimes we can really fall into that comparison trap, I think, because we just don't really, I guess, like know what other people are doing or know their journey or know their goals. Yes, I won my heat, but I didn't perform as well as I was hoping to. And I think, I don't know, I just pull so many parallels from running and the running journey I'm on right now to a lot of the work that we do with our period recovery athletes.
Ooh, yeah. I feel very similarly about how my marathon went, where so many people reminded me that it was still a marathon and it was still a great finish and great time, but it wasn't what I was looking for. So there was like that very weird internal turmoil of wanting to celebrate the accomplishment, but also feeling sad about not getting exactly what I wanted.
Yes. And I think there's like a lot of learnings, and that's something that we always talk about like on this podcast and in our period recovery program, but there's like a lot of learnings in everything that we do. We have to figure out how we can navigate sometimes. And I feel like manage our own expectations where we can celebrate the wins that we have, but then like also like manage our expectations. I wanted to go faster. I was hoping to see like a 6 at the beginning of my mile pace, and I was at like 7:01. That was like a little discouraging. I'm in a certain period of training right now where I'm not training for a 5K. I decided to sign up for the 5K like 2 days before the 5K, and I had run like 10 miles like the day before. Like I wasn't, at peak rest. I hadn't done any type of taper. I hadn't practiced any pacing for a 5K. I know I could go faster, but like I wasn't necessarily doing the things that I needed to go fast in that specific race.
Kind of like period recovery is going to be so individualized for every single person that we work with, and the changes that each person needs to make to get where they want to be as far as goals is going to look really, really different. And your goal is running a marathon and doing it quickly. It's not running 5Ks for time, which if that becomes your goal, great, you would change some of those things that you were doing, but that wasn't the purpose of this race. So still like a great accomplishment for sure, but it wasn't like the end goal, and it was supposed to be a learning experience. I know that like we had talked offline about how it was really important for you to kind of nail down like pre-race strategy and what that feels like and what that looks like for you. So that way it becomes more familiar and more comfortable on the day that it actually actually matters.
Yes. And I can kind of give a full recap on that because I actually felt like I have that down, which is really exciting. And I even have been sharing a little bit too, like at least on Instagram and Jenna with you offline about like navigating some of that pre-performance anxiety. And I feel like that was starting to be a little bit better too. Like I woke up at like 3:30. I didn't have to get up until 5:30, but I was able to go back to sleep. And like that usually doesn't happen. So like there's like lots of learnings throughout this like entire journey in my preparation for the marathon. And again, there's just so many parallels of this to period recovery.
I love this. Well, congrats again on the finish.
Thanks. That was enough about me. How was your week going? Highs and your lows.
First, I have to share that I had another athlete start their period this week. So just have to celebrate that win. That's always a high, and just like huge congrats to that athlete for working so hard and getting her period back. So yay, that definitely is part of my high for sure.
Back-to-back weeks.
I know, have so many people who are so dedicated to getting their period back, and it's so fun to celebrate that win with them. Huge congrats to her. Very proud, very happy for her. I'll still share the high and low that I was planning on sharing before yesterday when she started her period, which is, I have to be honest, I have another podcast, as in like I am part of another podcast. It's not an external facing podcast. It is an internal podcast. My best friend lives in Maryland and we're on opposite sides of the country, which makes it really, really hard to communicate, to stay in touch. Like we'll try to call each other, but like our hours don't really line up as far as working hours, awake hours, sleeping hours, and things like that. So there's like this trend, I think it's maybe on TikTok or Instagram, I'm not really sure, but you create a shared album and then you record like a short video about something that's happening in your week and you upload it, and it's a shared album between the two of you, and then you can comment on it and like just like provide quick updates. So I've been doing that with my best friend for a couple of like months now, and it has just been so fun. And she sent me a video yesterday that just was like exactly what I needed to hear, like such like an uplifting, like funny video, but also just like made me still feel like we were living in the same city and seeing each other every day. And I just like my highest technology, and that like people come up with these like very silly things that can allow us to stay in close connection to the people that we don't like physically live close to anymore. So that's my high.
My low was literally that you had started another podcast. Like my heart just went down. I was like, oh my gosh.
I don't know if there's anything that I could talk about that long on a podcast other than like nutrition and period recovery. Like otherwise it would just be like, here's what I ran today. People would be like, that's not interesting.
I was like, are we losing the co-host to the Eat More Carbs podcast right now? Like, I don't know if I can handle this.
Never. The Eat More Carbs
recovered.
Podcast is not going anywhere. I'm not actually co-hosting another podcast. I'm just literally uploading videos of myself to my friend in a shared album on iCloud. Don't worry.
Oh, Jenna.
I give you a little jump scare this morning. I always got to keep you on your toes.
That was a good one.
Okay, I'm sorry. My low is running related, and it is running related because I am still working through my hamstring situation, and I'm now dealing with the summer heat. So as my hamstring starts to feel a little bit better and I start to feel encouraged about being able to run more again, the weather is not allowing that. So I am feeling very frustrated with my lack of running, which means that I'm not feeling super confident about signing up for another race. So my low is that like I haven't signed up for another race. I've looked at a whole bunch of them. I've thought about a whole bunch of different ones about what would timeline work best for me, but I'm trying to remove the pressure of that. And I'm just going to like pull a Reilly and sign up for a race last minute if it feels right. And then I'm not going to worry so much about like the time. And when I say last minute sign up for a race, I don't mean like a marathon or anything like that. Like got to train for that for sure. And my low is just like, I don't have the same training that I typically do. And I don't have something to train for right now. And I think that can be hard sometimes when you don't have like a training goal.
I think that can be really challenging to navigate too, because like we're such like goal motivated people. And sometimes like when we don't have like a goal or a set structure, it can just feel really overwhelming.
Yeah. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I training for? It makes me lose motivation to train.
I'm not gonna lie though, I really liked the 5K setup because it was just really nice because it was a smaller race. And I think something that you and I have done is like we've trained for a lot of like bigger races, but like the idea of not having an expo, like picking up your bib the morning of, it being much more casual and like just going out there and like racing. I was thinking about this because you had kind of shared like on a previous episode, like when you raced the OC marathon, afterwards, like a lady gave you her jacket. Every time you go to a race, I feel like everybody's in a good mood. Like everybody's just out there, everybody's happy. Like even if they don't meet their goals, like they still accomplished something. And I just feel like everybody's just so nice at races.
It's that like camaraderie and accomplishing something together. The running community on race day is unlike anything else. And I'm like super thankful that we get to be a part of it and experience it. We are very excited for today's episode, and the topic of today's episode, like I mentioned already, highly anticipated, highly requested episode.
I am pumped to talk about this today. When we look at our period recovery, like applicants and our athletes, the biggest thing that is holding them back is this fear of weight gain and their body changing. And I'm really excited to kind of address this with you today, Jenna.
I'm so excited. If you're a new listener to the Eat More Carbs podcast, first of all, welcome. We're so happy that you're here, and we're glad to have you here talking about period recovery and getting your period back. Reilly and I talk a lot about LEA and HA, so low energy availability and hypothalamic amenorrhea. Reilly, can you just define HA and LEA real quick before we get into some of the details of getting your period back and weight gain?
Yes. First off, we'll start with HA. HA, or hypothalamic amenorrhea, is the absence of the menstrual cycle for 3 or more months. So basically, you don't have a period. It's not cycling the way that it needs to be. There's 2 types of amenorrhea. We have primary amenorrhea, which is defined as not getting your period by age 15, or secondary amenorrhea, where you will have a normal onset of your period before age 15, and then you experience irregular cycles. So again, missing that period for 3 or more months. Both primary and secondary amenorrhea are going to often show up in athletes due to low energy availability. So low energy availability, or like Jenna just said, we like to call it LEA, is this low energy availability state for the body. Basically, your body is in an energy deficit, and there's just not enough energy to go around. There's an imbalance between the energy coming in through food and fluids, and then there's too much energy going out through exercise and movement. When this happens, we see a downregulation of certain parts of the body, like the reproductive system, in a way to protect the body, because your body is basically in starvation in this low energy availability state.
Reilly and I are dedicated to making sure that you get your period back and helping you correct LEA to make sure that we restore a normal cycle. The biggest hurdle, like Reilly mentioned at the beginning of this, that so many athletes come to us with as far as fear goes, is fear of gaining weight or fear of body changes. So Reilly, for once and for all, can you clear up this question that we have been asked so many times? Do I need to gain weight in order to get my period back?
You are going to want to come get me, everybody who's listening to this episode, but I'm going to tell you it is going to depend, but you are most likely going to see a change in weight with period recovery, but that doesn't mean that it's always going to be adipose tissue. And I think it's really, really, really important that we have this conversation and we dive into why that is. So I'm so excited to kind of chat about that today, and that you all are here. It is something that is holding so many people back in period recovery.
If it's not adipose tissue, where is this weight coming from?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question too. So when we think about fueling our bodies, oftentimes we forget that food has weight. If you eat more food, there's going to be more food in your GI tract, right? If we want to quickly kind of go over digestion really, really, really fast, we can think about digestion starting in the mouth. Our food is in our mouth, it goes down our esophagus, it goes into our stomach, and then our digestion process and absorption process of our nutrients really kind of begins in the small intestine. We do have some digestion happening in the stomach, but most of our digestion and breakdown is happening into the small intestine. And until the body breaks down those nutrients and starts absorbing them through the intestinal lining, that food is actually considered outside of our system. It's considered outside of the body still, which again is kind of like a weird concept because it's literally inside our body. If we're eating more food, there's going to be more food going through our digestive tract and sitting there waiting to be digested. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you are somebody who has started fueling your body with more energy, with more volume of food, with just more food in general, you might see an increase on the scale just because you're eating more food. But that doesn't mean that it's automatically being made into adipose tissue. Your body's just utilizing that fuel to give your body the energy that it needs because it's in an energy deficit right now.
Exactly. Not that we recommend weighing yourself at the beginning and the end of every single day, but theoretically, if you were to take your weight at the beginning of the day and then take your weight again at the end of the day, you would see an increase in weight simply because you fueled with food and with water. And that's, like Reilly said, in your system, but like technically outside. But because we've consumed fluid, we've consumed food, and that has a weight associated with it. But if we think about that, even if it's under fueling, that still has weight to it. It's still going to show up in that sense. What else could potentially be causing an athlete to feel like they are gaining weight during their period recovery journey.
Additionally, related to the digestive tract is the GI is going to be one of the processes that gets downregulated when you are under fueling. We have to basically kind of upregulate the GI again, right? We have to kind of teach the body to be able to accept more fuel. I think this can also be a really confusing topic and concept because we think, okay, if we need more fuel, why can't our body accept it? And our body's really good at adaptation. So it's, again, downregulated the GI because it doesn't need to be activated all the time if you're not feeding it. It's not functioning the way it needs to. So with this downregulation, right, it only makes sense because what happens is like, why do we need to fuel something and give something energy and nutrients to function properly when we're in a state of starvation? What we have to do is we really have to start kind of slowly teaching the body to be able to accept more fuel. And that can feel really uncomfortable at first because digestion might not be happening as quick as we're used to. And there could be some like maybe undigested food kind of sitting in our gut. And that can just feel uncomfortable. It might not translate over to actual weight gain on the scale, but it could just feel kind of uncomfortable when you're bloated. Maybe your clothes feel a little bit differently. And it can make you almost like think you've gained weight, even though that's not actually the true state of affairs.
I'm so glad you brought this up because the change in digestion that we see when we actually underfuel can cause some type of uncomfortable symptoms, but then the change in digestion once we start adding more fuel and we working towards positive energy balance and period recovery can also cause a lot of bloating because, like you said, the body is adapting to then being able to digest and accept more fuel, which can feel a lot like bloating or heaviness. And that often is what athletes say that they are feeling when they think that they are gaining weight is just an adjustment to digestion. It's something that we experience, but just because it's happening does not mean that it's permanent.
And I think your feelings are totally valid. If you are listening to this episode and you're like, I'm having this digestion problem, I'm having this bloating, but it's so hard for me to eat when I'm bloated. Because yeah, that feeling is weird sometimes. It's kind of uncomfortable. I mean, you know, when I'm super bloated or I don't feel like my digestion's going great, I might not really have that much of an appetite. And I have my period, right? So I think it can just be really challenging to navigate.
Definitely. That digestion component does play a really big role in it. What are other factors that could be making an athlete feel like they are gaining weight, or what other factors could be impacting weight changes when working towards period recovery and restoring positive energy balance when you're in a state of low energy availability?
This one is really specific to athletes. The main source of fuel that your body wants to utilize for high intensity exercise is going to be carbohydrate, and we store carbohydrate in the muscle in the form of glycogen. If we're under fueling, we are not going to have full glycogen stores. And once you start incorporating carbohydrates into your fueling plan, you're going to start actually making glycogen, right? So this is going to help your performance. This is going to help your energy levels. This also might make you feel a little uncomfortable because for every gram of glycogen that you are going to synthesize, you're also going to hold on to about 3 grams of water. That's not a bad thing, right? Hello hydration, hello glycogen. We're going to see so many performance benefits from that, but that is going to add a little extra weight onto the body. Again, not a bad thing, actually a wonderful thing. It's just, it can be, I think, overwhelming, especially if weight gain is something that you're, kind of navigating or worried about.
It's so valid to feel concern about weight changes or fearful of weight changes that might be happening, especially if you are navigating period recovery. This is your first attempt at trying to increase your energy availability. And those initial things that you might start to feel like Reilly just mentioned are very overwhelming for sure. Like being uncomfortable and bloated, feeling like you are putting on weight, even if it is glycogen in your muscles. All of those things, they're good things. Both can exist at the same time. We can have those valid feelings of like, this is scary and maybe uncomfortable, but it's also good. And I know I'm working towards a good thing.
Yes. The reason that we wanted to bring those up today is because these two things, this digestion and this glycogen piece, are things that can happen relatively quickly. And I think that can be really scary because you start feeling your body properly and you're immediately going to have these feelings. For somebody who's struggling with the idea of weight gain, to almost feel like you immediately gain weight after, eating some carbohydrates or eating a little bit more food can put a dent into your recovery process.
There is a big component of LEA and and what our body attempts to do from a preservation standpoint. You always say that when we're in a period of low energy availability, when we have HA, your body is in a starvation mode. But when we say that, what does that actually mean, Reilly? And what is the body's like protection mechanism in that state?
We're in a protective mode. When we think about what our body's priority is, our body's priority is to live. It's going to, I keep saying this word, but it's going to prioritize what is important for survival. That means like brain, heart, vital organs. And it's going to do whatever it can to make sure that those systems have fuel. And if you're constantly fluctuating between a positive energy balance, a negative energy balance, or just chronically in a negative energy balance, that is a really dangerous place for your body to be. And it's going to do things like store excess fat to make sure that those vital organs and those really important systems have a fuel source available.
The reason that your body kind of does this is because it's anticipating another period of low energy availability. So when you do provide it with fuel, it wants a reserve, it wants a backup because it's fearful that we are going to experience another period of prolonged low energy availability. And it knows it needs something to keep the necessary systems fueled to keep you alive. Our body is smart, it's adaptive, and it will do everything possible to keep you surviving. Starvation is a mode that we can survive in, but it is not one that we thrive in.
Exactly. And I think this can be something that's really hard to grasp as well. It's just a very complex concept because people don't understand that like how you can be in a negative energy balance and you could still be gaining like fat mass. I think it's really confusing.
It kind of like works the opposite way that we think it would.
It does. And I think people also assume in the other direction where like if you start eating more food, you're going to immediately gain fat mass. That's not always the case. And I think it really does depend when we look at fat mass or adipose tissue and that gain in period recovery, because I'm not going to lie to you. Some athletes, they do need to gain weight.
From a safety perspective, from where they need to be as far as in order to support their body systems, yes, I'd agree. Sometimes it is necessary for certain athletes.
And sometimes it's 1 pound, sometimes it's 5 pounds, sometimes it's 10 pounds, sometimes it's 15. Like I could keep going because every single person and every single athlete in this journey is going to be different. We don't want you to hold yourself back because you think, oh my gosh, I have to gain 20 pounds to get my period back. Because so many of the athletes that we work with in the period recovery program are so close to getting their period. It's just a couple little tweaks here and there, a couple little additions, maybe 1 or 2 pounds of weight gain, and they get their period back and they maximize their performance while doing it.
And the reason why is because we have taken such a close look at their fueling and at their exercise and their training plan, and we have matched their fueling to reflect what their training needs. Underfueling, we talk about this all the time, can look so many different ways than just chronically not consuming enough food. Underfueling can look like training a workout in a fasted state. That's still underfueling. So correcting anything like that to make sure that there is adequate energy available when your body needs it. If this is your first step in working towards period recovery, first of all, like so proud of you. That is such a wonderful thing. Reilly, do you have any tips for someone who's maybe a little bit fearful of weight changes that might occur during the period recovery journey to get them started or kind of overcome those fears that they might be having?
I think the biggest thing with period recovery is to start small. Even if weight gain is something that you are worried about, I would highly recommend starting small because you have to gain some trust with your body and your body needs to gain some trust with you. I would start small and start fueling pre and post workout to help really maximize your energy availability and your energy levels during training. Making these small sustainable steps can really almost like ease in to period recovery because Jenna, you mentioned this on a previous episode, but the recovery over period, that goal can seem really big and really daunting. Breaking it up into smaller steps and having smaller goals and smaller wins can really help you stay motivated on your journey and give you some positive reinforcement that you're doing the right thing with fueling your body at this increased level.
I think that's such a great tip. I want to add on to that there is such a strong mental component when it comes to period recovery and the challenge of what might happen to changes with your body. They're so valid. One of the things that I like to remind people if they are experiencing some changes like bloating or digestion changes and things like that, just because it's a change doesn't mean it's permanent, and it also doesn't mean that it's bad. It's a sign that we're regaining trust with your body and that your body is working towards restoring a healthy cycle. It can be so challenging, but making sure that we approach it from the standpoint that feels comfortable for you and making those small and sustainable changes to just slowly make that progression there and reminding yourself along the way that just because there is change doesn't mean that that change is bad.
And the change isn't also always forever too. I think that's something that is a really good reminder, is like, you're not going to have to gain weight. You're not going to have to be in this, like, you're not going to have to do some of these things for the rest of your life.
It's temporary. That doesn't mean that it's not hard temporarily, but you can do this. You can do hard things. If Reilly and I can live in Las Vegas and survive the dietetic internship, you can do this.
Yes, you can. I promise. And we're cheering you on every step of the way.
Like we mentioned at the very beginning of this, Reilly and I are both running right now. Well, Reilly definitely more so than me, but you just ran your 5K. You have your half marathon in a couple of weeks. You start your marathon training here really soon. So how is everything going? How are you feeling about everything this week?
I know my half is actually June 21st. So like a week and a half from when this episode goes out, which is crazy. As of today, I have like only 4 runs left until my next half, which gives me a little like butterflies thinking about it, but I'm really excited. We'll see how it goes. I feel like this is my last real week of training and actually looking really forward to my taper week. Like my legs are toast right now and I've never been this excited, I feel like, to taper. A couple more runs and here we go.
We're so excited to hear how that race goes. And I'm even more excited to hear about how like the strategy for morning of the race and fueling goes for you. Have you decided what you're going to do for intra run during the half marathon?
So something that really works well for me is I like doing like 20 grams of fuel every 20 minutes. I like to rotate between gels and gummies. I have found a couple gels that I really like. I like the SIS ones. I've been playing around with UCAN, which I know you and I have talked a lot offline about, like, do we like those? What's the science behind them? Like, stop hiding the science. But I do like that you can take both of those without water because I just like having that flexibility, even though I do take them both with water. I just like the flexibility of not having to rely on water with those. So I will be aiming for 20 grams of carbohydrates every 20 minutes.
I love that. That's fantastic.
I know you're a running dietitian, so let me know if you have any modifications to that.
Definitely don't try anything now because we're too close to race day.
I know. But I have been really practicing. And even this morning, I did like a 3 mile at race pace. And I even took gels and stuff during that 3 mile to practice like consuming food during race pace.
I love that. I think that's always one of my bigger recommendations is on your shorter runs and on shorter runs that are maybe at race pace is practicing your fueling, because on race day, if you haven't practiced at race pace, it feels different. Opening the package that you're going to be taking, opening the gel that you're going to be taking, practicing taking that while you're running that fast if you don't plan to slow down or you don't plan to walk through an aid station or walk when you are taking it. You just need to practice like all of it, like truly practice all of it. So I love that. Plus practicing on a shorter distance, like you've mentioned before, is a great way to like kickstart recovery on the other side.
It's never a waste. And I think that's also a big misconception is like, it's never going to go to waste. It's all part of the bigger fueling plan here.
Oh, wow. Love that. Absolutely love that.
So you shared at the beginning that you're not really training for anything right now, but I feel like I've seen you on Instagram, like doing lots of fun things. So what does training and like movement look like for you right now?
I'm not running as much, which is really hard. And it just feels different not to run as much, especially coming off of a marathon. But I know that the most important thing is that like I take a pause, make sure that I am allowing my body to heal so that way I can run again. I would much rather take time away from running now than continue to run on an injury and then have to inevitably take more time off later on because I continually injure myself. So I'm doing a lot of like different things. I have a hard time sometimes when I'm in the gym, just like motivating myself to like train outside of that, unless I have like a specific lift I know I'm doing, which kind of gets old and monotonous for me. So this is so silly, but I started the Apple Fitness videos.
I love that.
Because they're like 20 to 30 minutes of like an easy lift or something like that. And if I'm doing like a heavier lift and I need like a little bit extra to kind of get my heart rate up, but it's more weight based rather than like a true run, I've been using those. It's just working because I have something that like somebody to tell me what to do right now. And sometimes that's what you need.
I love that. Sometimes you just need like some guidance or at least like some sort of structure. We do have a subscription that we're working on right now to help provide that for the period recovery girlies, but just having that like little structure just can be so helpful.
Sometimes that's what you need. Like it's that extra boost of motivation because you know that you don't have to think about it.
Love that.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Eat More Carbs podcast. If you do have questions for Reilly and I over our running journey or period recovery, please reach out to us. You can find us online. You can find Reilly at easy.sports.nutrition, and you can find me at jenna.fisher.nutrition. Thanks again for listening. Please make sure you rate, subscribe, and review. And as always, remember to eat more carbs.